On the southern coast of England lies the Isle of Wight, a popular holiday destination for many British natives looking for a quick getaway. The landscape here is noted for its tranquility and quiet beauty. Vast sandy beaches and bright open countryside comprise the natural features of this island. It's no mystery as to why so many come here. It is the perfect escape from metropolitan life. The town of Sandown can be found amongst this setting. It's a peaceful place, often bustling with friendly tourists around summertime. However, the name Sandown has become synonymous with one of the most bizarre events to have taken place on the British Isles. This event has since gone on to become part of the local folklore, engraving itself into the town's architecture. Tonight, on Urban Folklore, we investigate the strange tale of the Sandown Clown. It happened in May 1973. It was a regular holiday season at Sandown, especially around Lake Common Road, a particularly popular area for holidaymakers. Two children from two different families ended up befriending each other, and as such, they were allowed to go explore the surrounding marshlands and woods together. Their names were listed as Harry and Faye, although their true identities have never been disclosed. Both Harry and Faye were around 7 years old when this happened. As the two children set off to explore their surroundings, they had noted the distant sound of a siren hanging in the air. Perhaps it was an ambulance or a police car. Regardless of whatever it was, the children would not be deterred in their exploration. As they left the safety of their road, they crossed a golf course and traversed the swampy marshlands. It wasn't long before they came across a small fenced-off airport. The airport staff were seen to be casually working, as would have been expected, but curiously, the siren continued to ring out, wailing with an eerie urgency. Was there some sort of emergency? Did something happen? The children scanned the little airport to see where the source of this siren was coming from. However, they were confused by the reaction of the airport staff, or rather their lack of reaction. They simply continued working as normal, not even flinching at the strange noise, which had been blaring for quite some time now. It was almost as though they couldn't hear it. The children were puzzled by this, but as they listened closer, they realized something. The siren wasn't coming from the airport at all. It was actually coming from the woods adjacent to them. Following their curiosity and the siren, the children turned away from the small airport and the seemingly oblivious workers and headed towards the tree line. What in the world was making this noise? As the children entered the tree line, the siren, which was getting louder at this point, had abruptly stopped. Strange. Nevertheless, both Harry and Faye pressed on. They may as well continue with their exploration whilst they were here. As the children traversed further, they came across a small wooden bridge overlooking a creek. Just as they were about to cross, they stopped. There was someone under the bridge. Faye noted a blue-gloved hand appearing to grab onto the side, and from there, a figure emerged from under the bridge. The figure in question instantly struck the children as strange. Besides loitering underneath a bridge, this person was dressed in a bizarre costume, consisting of brightly coloured yet tattered clothing, topped with an odd, pointed hat. As the figure waded through the water, the children noted how abnormally tall he was. Both Harry and Faye remained silent, not wishing to draw attention to themselves. This stranger moved with a very stiff gait, almost as though he was not accustomed to walking or using his legs. As he stumbled and wobbled through the creek, the children noticed that this figure appeared to be fumbling with a book of some kind. It was just then the figure clumsily dropped the book into the creek, before splashing around frantically to retrieve it. With the book back in hand, the strange man clambered out of the creek and onto the bank. In a sudden and bizarre sight, the figure then moved along in a strange hopping motion, with his knees raised high. The two children watched on in silence as they saw the figure enter a strange metallic hut deeper within the trees. Harry and Faye, confused by what they had just seen, idled at the edge of the bridge, questioning what had just happened. Just as they were about to turn back, the stranger re-emerged from the metallic hut, this time facing the children. His face was ghostly white and covered in strange markings. He appeared to be holding up a black-knobbed microphone with a white flex attached. Without warning, the siren noise blared out once again, almost deafening the two children. In a panic, the children ran away, but as soon as they did so, the siren suddenly stopped. The children halted and turned to look back at the figure, who was now holding the microphone to his face. For the first time, this figure spoke. "Hello? Are you still there?" The kids reported that this stranger's voice sounded as though it was directly beside them. The children, with their trusting nature, felt that the voice was friendly, and so decided they would cross the bridge and approach him. As they both got nearer, this figure's appearance would only grow ever more bizarre. He was nearly 7 feet tall and had no neck, for his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. He wore a yellow pointed hat, which interlocked with the red collar of a green tunic. A round black knob was affixed to the top of his hat, and wooden antennae were attached either side. The face had triangular markings for eyes, a brown square of a nose, and motionless yellow lips. Other round markings were on his paper-white cheeks, and a fringe of red hair fell onto his forehead. Wooden slats protruded from his sleeves and from below his white trousers. As the two kids cautiously approached, the figure pulled out a notepad and wrote in large letters, "Hello, and I am all colours, Sam." Faye read the confusing message out loud as they both continued to move closer. The children innocently started to question this so-called Sam. They asked about his ripped clothes, and Sam told them that they were the only clothes he owned. The children noted that Sam's lips did not move when he spoke, making his voice difficult to hear or understand. They asked Sam if he was human, to which he replied, "No." Noting his pale white complexion, they then asked Sam, "Are you a ghost?" Sam replied, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way." Puzzled, the children then asked, "What are you then?" To which Sam simply responded, "You know." This strange conversation continued, where Sam confusingly stated that he actually had no name, despite introducing himself as Sam. He then proceeded to draw sketches of others like him, implying that there were more Sams out there. Sam said he was scared of humans and was afraid of being attacked, but said if he was, he wouldn't fight back. It was at this point where Sam invited the children to enter his metallic hut. The strangeness of this encounter would only ramp up from here. The children described a metallic hut, devoid of windows and only accessible by crawling through a small flap. Upon entering, Sam removed his hat to reveal round white ears and sparse brown hair. The hut apparently had 2 levels, the ground floor being, quote, well papered in blue-green and covered in a pattern of dials. It had an electric heater and simple wooden furniture. The first floor above had less headroom than the ground floor and also had metallic flooring. Sam also hinted that he had a camp on the mainland, but didn't say where. The kids asked what Sam ate. Sam stated that he ate berries and drank water from the nearby river, which, after cleaning, was safe to drink. Sam then demonstrated to the children just how exactly he ate berries. Before eating a berry, he performed an odd conjuring trick. He placed a berry in his ear, thrust his head forward, and caused the berry to disappear and reappear in one of his eyes. Repeating the process, the berry travelled to his mouth. As the 3 of them consumed a meal of berries and water, they all continued in friendly conversation for about 30 minutes before the children departed. Sam walked the children to the bridge before bidding them farewell. As soon as they crossed the bridge, the children rushed back through the trees and marshes, before eventually passing the golf course and reaching the holiday village. There, they happened to bump into a man who was mending a fence. They both exclaimed to the man that they had just seen a ghost. Of course, the man laughed and dismissed the children's wild story, much to their dismay. The children, not wishing to invite further mockery, decided they would keep this story to themselves. However, it was only a few days later when Faye broke her silence and told her father what she and her friend had experienced. Predictably, the father dismissed the story as the imaginings of 2 young children. But he noted how upset and distraught she would get whenever he implied she was not being truthful. Faye's disturbing insistence that the story was true pushed him to inspect the area where Sam's hut was allegedly located. Of course, he found nothing. Despite this, however, there was something in Faye's story that was starting to get under his skin. The consistent level of bizarre and intricate detail made him think that perhaps his daughter did experience something strange. Sometime later, the father found Harry, where he asked him if he had ever seen anything strange out in the woodland. To the father's growing shock, Harry reluctantly told his story, which lined up perfectly with Faye's. It was at this point where the father really started to believe that the 2 kids may have experienced something otherworldly. Although it was not simply the children's testimonies that made him think this, for he himself had an experience in Sandown, roughly 3 years earlier. He was driving around the marshlands at night when he apparently witnessed what he described as a multi-lit aircraft flying low over the landscape. He maintained that this was not a plane or a helicopter, and he stated that, quote, a wide ring of 7 or more lights could be seen, each of them a large and clearly defined sphere, like a bright red cherry, and interspersed with turquoise and white light. No sound could be heard. The aircraft would seemingly follow him until he drove towards his friend's house, where it disappeared. Occasionally from then on, he would see the odd red light in the sky that would cautiously follow him. He described these subsequent lights as playing hide and seek between the treetops. 2 years after this, he would experience another strange incident, in which he was sitting on the cliffside at Compton Bay one evening. As he was staring out to sea, he noted 2 yellow lights glowing under the surface of the water. This was followed by a loud, droning noise. The man stood up and stepped back as he noted a large tidal surge, apparently caused by some underwater craft. He described the yellow lights as peering up like the eyes of some horrible sea monster. Eventually, though, they disappeared, as did the strange droning noise. The tides returned to normal, prompting the man to leave. The father connected his own experiences with his daughter's, which would link the so-called Sandown Clown as a potential extraterrestrial. The father contacted the British UFO Research Association, where the account of the Sandown Clown was officially documented. So, what are we to make of this story? What exactly is or was the Sandown Clown? Well, the most popular theory is that All Colours Sam was some kind of alien or extraterrestrial. This conclusion is justified by connecting the experiences of both Faye and her father, implying that both experiences were one and the same. Another theory is that Sam was a ghost or spirit of some kind. After all, Harry and Faye were apparently convinced that their experience was a ghostly one, rather than a close encounter. Others theorized that the children had some kind of shared hallucination. Perhaps they accidentally brushed against some psychedelic mushrooms or plants in their eagerness to explore the wilderness. It's possible that Sam is more human in origin. Maybe he was a local eccentric or disturbed vagabond. Did something happen to these children? Perhaps the Sandown Clown was merely a fabricated memory, a memory designed to suppress something traumatic. I suppose the most straightforward explanation is that the whole incident was nothing more than a lie, an elaborate prank perpetrated by 2 7-year-olds. After all, there is something vaguely retro and naive about this character's appearance. He seems to bear a resemblance to children's TV characters of the 1970s. So, what do I think? Well, I suspect the truth of this story lies somewhere within the last 3 theories. The alien theory is not particularly compelling to me, and seems to hinge purely on the assumption that Faye's experience and her father's are linked, never mind the fact that there is no evidence to support either testimony. I suppose one could say, well, the link is the location, and the fact that Faye and her father are related, but again, this doesn't really prove anything substantial. Certainly not enough for me to entertain the alien theory. A bold claim like that would require bold evidence. Now, it would be all too easy for me to simply declare that these 2 kids are merely liars, seeking attention. So, in the spirit of fair investigation, I'm going to discount this theory too. In any case, I don't actually believe the children are lying about their story. The level of consistent detail from both Harry and Faye is compelling, and just too hard to ignore. Obviously though, I could be wrong. Maybe they've got me fooled too, who knows. Now, when analysing the mannerisms and behaviour of All Colours Sam, there is one descriptor that repeatedly comes to my mind. Clumsy. Sam was found clumsily staggering around under a bridge. He clumsily dropped his book in the water before frantically splashing around to retrieve it. He wore a rather clumsy outfit and lived in a clumsy abode. This human characteristic seems to be very consistent with Sam. I think he was a person. Albeit a strange person, but a person nonetheless. Sandown was a popular holiday resort. As is the case with many seaside towns in the UK, seeing people in strange and funny costumes is a fairly common sight, especially around summertime. Could Sam have simply been one of these people? An employee of the tourist entertainment trade? His equipment, consisting of a microphone and speaker, certainly lends credence to the idea of Sam being a travelling performer. However, there is one problem with this theory. Where is he? Throughout the entertainment industry on Sandown, no such clown was ever identified. It would seem that Harry and Faye were the only ones to have ever interacted with this strange entity. Whilst I do have a strong inclination that Sam was human, I do accept that this conclusion is not without its faults. Ultimately, though, we will never know. All we can do for now is speculate. Now, I've yet to unpack the last theory, so let me address the hallucination in the room. A significant part of both Harry and Faye's testimony involved their direct interactions with Sam. More specifically, they described eating berries with him. The strange emphasis on consuming berries appears to be a significant part of the children's experience. Perhaps this element of the story is a clue as to its origins. The UK is home to many wild berries and fruits. The climate here is wet and relatively cool, making for a perfect habitat for various types of berries. Most berries are known to ripen around summertime. While some berries are safe to eat, many are not, and it is generally not advised for children to touch wild berries, let alone eat them, for some wild berries are in fact toxic. Symptoms of ingesting toxic wild berries can range from mild to severe. One can suffer from stomach pains, nausea, vomiting, confusion, death, and in some cases, hallucinations can be experienced. Is it possible, then, that under a beating sun and during the throes of adventure, the children consumed some appetizing berries, which in turn induced a shared hallucination? A hallucination composed of familiar elements around them. The familiar-looking TV mascot of the 70s, the familiar technology of the 70s. Even Sam's hut seems strikingly similar in appearance to the various aircraft huts found all around Sandown Airport. Even to this day, you can view them on Google Street View. Speaking of Google Maps, I've outlined a timeline of events. What you are looking at is a map of the general area where this is said to have taken place. Here, we can see Lake Common Road. Harry and Faye left where they crossed a golf course in pursuit of the siren noise. They would have continued through the trees and over the field. At this point, the airport would have been in full view of the children, and this is where they realized the siren was coming from the adjacent tree line. Within this tree line, there does appear to be a body of water. This is perhaps the creek where they first encountered Sam, although no bridge is visible from this angle. And so, if my calculations are correct, and if the story is to be believed, the full encounter with All Colours Sam would have taken place within this set of trees here. So, make of that what you will. The Sandown Clown, regardless of what it is or was, has cemented itself as part of the local folklore here. It's a story that has captured the imagination. It speaks to that part of us that recognizes the uncanny in everyday life. Like many local legends, the Sandown Clown exists to remind us all that the realm of the unknown exists behind but a thin layer. And sometimes that layer breaks. Hello everyone, I've found a bit of bonus content for you all. I was debating to myself whether or not I should add this to the video, but I figured I may as well. So, as I was exploring this area on Google Maps, I happened to come across something kind of spooky. Do you see it? Up in the sky. What is that thing? Is it a bug? Maybe it's just a bag in the wind. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a sweet UFO in search of some delicious berries. Anyway, I'll see you next month.